Now for our politics panel. Susan Page is USA Today's Washington bureau chief. Clarence Page is a columnist with the Chicago Tribune. Amy Davidson is a staff writer and contributor for The New Yorker. And Ron Fournier is a senior political columnist for the National Journal and the author of a new book, Love That Boy. Susan Page, start with you. Who has the better argument between Donald Trump and Reince Priebus about the Republican nominating process?
Well, Priebus is technically correct. You know, the rules have been in place for a long time, so read the rules and know what they're going. But, you know, Donald Trump has a very powerful political message to make here, which is if he's gotten the most votes, if he's gotten the most delegates, why in the world would you deny him the nomination? And this is the dilemma, I think, for the Republicans. They have two bad choices. They can nominate Trump and lose a lot of traditional Republicans who find him unacceptable. They can not nominate Trump and they'll lose his supporters. I don't think they have a really good option here.
Yeah, Amy Davidson, when Reince Priebus explains the rules, as Susan says, he's walking through well-established party rules. But sometimes, you know, when you look at things in the light of a new day, it seems, Reince Priebus said he can rest in the truth. I don't know if he's that restful right now.
He didn't look restful. I think one thing that Trump has going for him in this argument is that it fits so well with the general case he's been making, that things are rigged, that it's corrupt. He's basically worked on the assumption that you can't tell the American people enough that the political system is corrupt. That he explains his contributions to Democrats by saying, I was a builder in New York, I had to buy them off. And it works for him because it doesn't contradict anything that his supporters like about him.
Clarence, one thing Donald Trump has been doing in addition to making this claim about the Republican Party is he's kind of retooled a little bit his campaign. I don't know. What do you make of it? Do you think that's
well, he's found the need to retool because he did not have much of a ground game, for example. Ted Cruz has found a distinct advantage in a number of states by having people there to roust up votes for him. And delegates for him, even though, as we know by now, the delegates and the votes are not necessarily connected, or at least not in the way most people might think. And that's why Reince Priebus is running into this problem now, and why Trump has something of an argument. Much like in 2000 during the Florida debacle, or in 1968 when Hubert Humphrey got the nomination without having the votes in the primaries, that's the sort of thing that hits the voters by surprise. And they say, oh, it is rigged. It must be rigged. I don't understand it. It must be rigged. And so this gives Trump some traction with that argument.
Ron, what do you make of... You've covered so many presidents. As a candidate, what does this tell us, Donald Trump's approach to this other complicated business? What does it tell us about him as a potential president? What are we learning about his skills?
That he'll do anything he can and say anything he can to get what he wants. He's a very bottom line Machiavellian guy. But he's also tapped into something that's real out there. People understand that politics really needs to be reformed. And let's talk about the arc of reform here on this specific instance. Up until the 1970s, everything was picked. All nominees were picked by a bunch of white men in smoke-filled rooms. Since the 70s, as historian Matthew Dallek wrote about today in the Washington Post, we've had a sensible blend of voters participating and making their voices known, and mostly men in smoke-filled rooms making a decision, at least the establishment. I think going forward, what Trump is tapping into, what Bernie Sanders is tapping into, is the public believes in evolution, at least in political evolution. And going forward, we need to have a more democratic, more accessible, more transparent process for nominating candidates, or these parties are no longer going to be relevant. So if you want to be a relevant party, a millennial party, you need to find a different way to nominate people who are going to be leading your party.
So the question is, can that be done, Susan, while you're also actually trying to put a convention together? I mean, that seems like an awfully...
And you know, one thing that Reince Priebus said that I think is actually not entirely accurate or a little misleading is that the rules are up to the convention. Well, that's true in the end, but the RNC Rules Committee is meeting this week in Hollywood, Florida, and they could send to the Convention Rules Committee, which is a separate body, different rules. And in fact, I think we may see a really fierce battle that begins this week in Florida over, do we use the House of Representatives rules or do we use Robert's Rules of Orders? How easy would it be to open the nomination to people who did not compete in the primaries? This fight is going to start really soon.
And we're going to go ahead.
And the key thing in that is that the delegates, even if they're pledged to Trump, in theory, are not pledged to him on rules questions, only on the nomination question. So a Trump delegate can, even before the balloting starts, vote against Trump's interests.
And you
in
know who's
Miami-
focused on who's getting on that rules committee is the Cruz campaign. Just
Yep.
as they've been focused on delegate selection process in a way that the Trump campaign is not, they are focused on who's going to be sitting on that important rules committee that on the 18th decides what rules that convention will abide by.
I know, for a senator whose colleagues say he doesn't know about how to play strategy, he's played the backroom part of this game very well.
How about this for a little irony? Right now, this weekend in Miami-Dade County, they're not using a smoke-filled room, but they're picking delegates in a cigar warehouse.
Little throwback. Clarence, Susan mentioned the idea of maybe another person coming in on the stage based on the way the rules may be written. Paul Ryan, the House Speaker, tried to take himself off the stage this week. What did you make of that?
It reminds me of that song, "I Won't Dance, Don't Ask Me." You know? And naturally, after he sounds very much like he did when a lot of folks wanted him to run for Speaker of the House and said he wasn't going to do it. And of course, as we know, he's now Speaker of the House. I think it's important for Ryan personally to stay. Try to be an honest broker. He is Speaker of the House, and he may be called upon to at least help resolve the disputes that are rising now. And I can't help but believe that if he was offered the presidential nomination, he would take it. However, a lot of folks say maybe it's too soon. He wants to wait because he's basically a moderate conservative, a pragmatic conservative. And that's what makes him very attractive right now. People trying to find an alternative for the more ideological folks.
Yeah, I mean, the best way for him to be a draft candidate on the third, fourth, or fifth ballot is to have behaved beforehand like he wasn't ever going to want to
Then
run.
he's doing it for the country, he's doing it for the party. Somebody's got to get the nomination. If there's really a deadlock, then it's going to be opened up. And he may say, I hate to do this, you made me.
I actually think Paul Ryan means what he says. I don't think this is some calculated strategy on his part. And I think he's playing a longer game, which is whoever they nominate for president, he's going to be an alternative voice for what it is the Republican Party stands for. That is not a bad position to be in. And remember, he's also a young guy who could run in 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, when the situation may be a little less turbulent in the Republican Party.
Right. I trust the House Speaker here, too. What I don't trust is that an unruly, angry, disruptive, desperate for change, a group of convention delegates would do anything conventional.
I think that's right. I mean, his motives may be pure right now, but it may be on the ninth ballot where people are looking around and he's the only.
And if not
Well,
him,
remember
maybe
what-
somebody else who's not even in the mix right now.
Remember what Mo Udall said in 1976? He said, if nominated, I'll move to Mexico. If elected, I will fight extradition.
All right.
Best quotes are in the business, Mo Udall.